So if you're not working with retailers already, don't be scared to pitch to them. I see this as, I suppose, a real turning point that can really shift someone's business, is working with a large retailer. And a lot of people separate D2C and retail. They think, oh, there's all these high growth D2C businesses, I want to be one of those. But actually, a lot of those D2C high growth businesses, they've either had big investments to start with, or they have had a big community or audience, or it's somebody who's got a true expertise in digital marketing. And those are the ones where I kind of see that high growth. If you don't have those experiences, it can be more challenging. But actually working with retailers can mean that you can access a huge customer base very quickly. It gives brand trust to customers as well, because they can really start to see, well, there's validation here. It's sat next to some of these other big brands that I know about. And actually it creates a halo effect for your direct-to-consumer businesses as well. And it can reduce your digital advertising costs, for example, and it can just kind of create a more, I suppose, holistic way for you to scale your brand, which I think is more important than ever, because we are seeing so many changes in the digital world, from accounts being blocked on Instagram, like I mentioned, the digital advertising challenges. Again, even with retail, when we've had the store closures, that's been challenging as well. So we can't rely just on one channel, and we shouldn't be thinking about just one channel. And I think I see a lot of business owners, whether they're founders or they're corporate leaders, and their focus often kind of gets sucked into one area of the business. So I'm kind of always encouraging people, how can you zoom out of your business? How can you look at the bigger picture? What are the multiple different touch points that your customer could be discovering you? Because ultimately that will bring brand trust, and that will then kind of increase your conversion rates, and whether that's in store or that's digital as well. So if you are pitching to buyers, I'm going to be giving you some tips today, because it really, really can leverage your business. And I've seen a lot of people thought, hang on, I'm going to wait to see what happens for the pandemic. We have another crisis going on now, which is obviously tragic, but actually this isn't a time to stand still, because it makes businesses work harder than ever. And when I was working in buying, we had to work harder than ever. When times were challenging, when times were tough, it was really about, right, we need to knuckle down. What's working, what's not? Let's be cutthroat. Let's get new stuff in. We have to excite customers and really encourage them to come into store or shop on our websites. So my number one tip is refine your USP. So this is your unique selling point. What is your point of difference? And when I say this, it's what is your point of difference truly? The amount of people I meet, and everybody starts a business because they think they've seen a gap in the market. There was something that they couldn't find. But there are millions of new brands out there now. And it's really understanding, not only before you launch, but also when you have launched and when you're about to pitch to buyers, make sure you're looking at the market again, working out what that point of difference is, and how you can communicate that really clearly and really succinctly. So again, going back to that kind of that digital fatigue, that kind of how it's hard for us to keep remembering so much information, we need to be able to communicate what we're doing really, really quickly, where it can resonate with somebody. And often that's creating an emotional connection with somebody. There are a lot of female-founded, sustainable vegan skincare brands out there. That's not telling me anything. They're all facts. That's not emotion. That's not going to think, I need that in my life. That's solving a problem for me. So it's really about how do you stand out. And for example, what I say at WIZZ&CO is, I want you to be the brand that your customers rave about. And automatically, I hope people goes, yay, I want that to be me. So it's creating that one line, it's creating that connection. Because again, this is going to be so important when you are pitching to a buyer as well. That buyer is going to know the market inside out, they're going to know their product assortment inside out, and so you need to be then reviewing your point of difference compared to the brands they already stock. They are not going to be discontinuing a brand to bring in something that's quite similar. So people think, oh, I've already created the brand, I don't need to do this again, but you need to be constantly reviewing it, evolving it to keep relevant. So this is something I love working with brands on. I have got a great blog on my website which has got a kind of a free guide to this if you do want some more information, and some great examples of before and after as well, of some of the brands that I've helped refine this with. Ultimately, do your research. And this may sound obvious, but honestly, the amount of people that had contact me when I was a buyer, they spelt my name wrong, they didn't even bother finding out my name, they copied and pasted an email and saying, hey, this would be great for Harrods. And I was like, hey, no, this is Selfridges. And it's kind of those are some real basics. But also, the more you know about that business, the better you can refine your pitch, the better you can make it to be more tailored to what they're potentially looking for. So making sure you're researching that retailer, keep up to date with what what they're marketing, what you think their objectives are, and so you can really start to align your communication and your pitch to the people that you want to get stocked with. Also really think about trending categories as well. So what's happening in the market? Kind of as I mentioned earlier, there was this big shift towards self-care, towards wellness, kind of in the last 18 months. So it's what's happening in the market and how does your brand align to that as well. And maybe think about, even if you're not in one of these trending categories, how can you potentially be collaborating with them? How can you maybe change your communication methods? And actually, I was talking to one of my clients yesterday. It's a home decor brand, really fast-growing D2C. They sell amazing cushions that are succulent shapes. Really cool, they put IP on it, but actually they've suddenly realised they've had this big shift with what's happening in digital, and they've got to really change what they're about, and they've realised there's some categories that they can harness in their kind of communication methods. So actually it was like, this was great for a period of time, but then we need to evolve our strategy. We need to really think about what is it that people are looking for at the moment, and how can we align to kind of what those customers are looking for. So again, it's kind of that constant, it's not completely changing your brand or your product, but it's what's that communication and that pivot, which again, thinking about this is going to really help when you're pitching to those retailers. This is my biggest bit of advice. If you're going to remember one thing today about pitching to retailers, this is prove your sales value. It's forgotten 9 out of 10 times with people that are pitching to buyers. Even the people I probably launched actually when I was at Selfridges have probably forgotten this in some instances. And this is about understanding the buyer's mindset. They're super creative, they're a futurist, they're thinking about the trends and what's happening, but they're super commercial. I was always tasked with double-digit growth year on year, and so you're really thinking about what's going to sell every day, every hour, every week, every month. You're constantly looking at sales reports. So that buyer wants to understand that, yeah, if I take this brand, it's going to make me a lot of money, and that's ultimately what their key objectives are. So when you're pitching to them, you need to be really thinking about proving your sales value, proving your kind of commercial opportunity to the buyer. And people say, well, what do I do? Do I come up with a sales number? And absolutely not, you can't do that. That's tricky to do. But what you can do is demonstrate some, I suppose, some statistics, some facts, some great bits of information of the successes you've had about how quickly your business is growing. And if you include those in a pitch pack, it means that you can really start to demonstrate to the buyer that you're growing quickly, and actually they'll think, oh, hang on, this is interesting, this is happening, that's happening, maybe I need to speak to them and find out a bit more. So I kind of call it a brag list. Think about your brag list. What are the things you're most proud of in your business about how quickly you've been scaling, and how do you incorporate those into a pitch pack in a quite a succinct way, because a buyer will be looking at it quite quickly. And again, there's a bit more information on the blog as well, but it's about crafting something that kind of is really attractive to a buyer, and it's playing to that kind of creative point of difference, but also to their commercial, I suppose, their commercial awareness and their KPIs.